Hello everyone, welcome back to How to Chess. I'm your host William, and in today's video, I'll be showing you guys 3 endgames with the king and the pawn. So, in endgames like these, we want to make sure that our king has opposition over our opponent's king. In this example, our opponent's king is on more of the left side of the board. Our king is on more of the right side of the board. So, if we go over here, if we go to the left, then our opponent's king will gain opposition over our king, which we don't want. We want the other thing. So we're going to go to the right side. Just keeping opposition. So now when the opponent's king is looking down at our pawn, we just want to make sure that our king can come in the middle. So when our opponent's king moves to either one of these sides, we're going to move ahead and opposite of the side that they moved on, so over here. And now if they move back, we're going to push the pawn. Now we're going to create opposition again. We're going to move it forward and to the other side. And then we're going to push the pawn, checking the king. And now it's a red carpet for our pawn, and we can easily promote it to a queen.
Okay, so here's a second possible scenario that can happen, where your king and your pawn, or mainly just your pawn, the king should be near your pawn, but as long as your pawn is either on the A or H files, this scenario applies. So let's just keep doing what we did before. Try to move and gain as much space as possible to create that beautiful red carpet for our pawns. Now, something you should always keep in mind when you have a king and a pawn endgame is, can the enemy king catch up to my pawn? One easy way to do this is draw a diagonal line from the pawn to the end of the board, and using this, create a square. If the enemy king is in this square, you'll be able to catch up to your pawn. Now, if you look carefully, the enemy king was in the square. We can't just push our pawn yet without our king as support. So, let's try pushing our pawn about one square forward. Now, black king has us in opposition, which actually means we'll probably end up drawing this game, because you can't win unless you have the opposition. You'll notice that if I try to push the pawn, the black king just gets in front. If I try to push the pawn forward, black king has to go back. You might think it's a win, but look, the second you have to push your king forward, the black king is stuck. Where's your king going? You move him to the side, you can try triangulating. None of it works, because the king's always just going to go back to that h8 square. And you just have to push the pawn, it's a stalemate. Now the third most common king-pawn scenario is very similar to the first one, except your king is actually one step away from the pawn. And once again, you might not think of it like this, but the fact that your king is just one step away from your pawn creates a massive difference. Now we're in the same position, except the black king will actually have opposition onto us. See, I'll try the same stuff, but he gets in the way of our pawn, and there's actually nothing we can do. Here we get opposition, but the black king will always block our pawn. There's nothing we can do, and eventually it'll just be a stalemate.